This is another podcast from Alpha Business Media. When you close your eyes and picture Nepal, what's the first thing that pops into your head?
Hmm. Probably the Himalayas, right?
Those-
Everest.
Exactly. That iconic, breathtaking mountain landscape. And absolutely, that's a powerful image, a huge strength for Nepal's tourism.
Hmm.
But, and this is the core idea we're exploring today through this stack of articles, research, and notes, Nepal holds a treasury of experiences that extend far, far beyond trekking peaks.
Exactly. While mountain tourism brings in adventure seekers, relying too heavily on it creates challenges, particularly around seasonality. Hotels packed in spring and autumn, but
Often sitting empty the rest of the year,
pretty much, yeah.
which is why this deep dive is so timely. We've dug into this material to answer a critical question. How can Nepal tap into its incredible cultural richness, its diverse food scene, its vibrant festivals, and other niche offerings to build a truly year-round, sustainable tourism industry?
It's about shifting the perception, really, moving beyond just the country of Everest to a multifaceted destination.
So our mission today is to guide you through these sources, uncovering the hidden gems and the strategic opportunities they highlight.
We want to help you see the full picture of what Nepal has to offer and the roadmap laid out in the material for unlocking that potential.
Okay, let's unpack the current situation because the sources paint a pretty clear picture of why change isn't just nice, it's necessary. Tourism is already a big deal for Nepal's economy.
It really is. The material shows it contributes significantly. As of early 2023, tourism made up, 21.9% of all registered industries?
Wow.
And it also attracts substantial foreign direct investment FDI, something like 33% of total FDI commitments, or maybe 22.2% of approved FDI went into tourism projects.
That's serious investment flowing in, and revenue bounced back strongly after the pandemic.
Impressively so. Tourism revenue reached NPR 61.5 billion in 2023. That's a nearly 190% jump from the year before.
Huge jump.
Yeah, and it contributes about 1.1% to Nepal's GDP and supports over 370,000 jobs, which is around 11.5% of total employment.
And visitor numbers are recovering, well over 1 million tourists in 2023.
Hitting 1.14 million in 2024, which is like 96% of pre-pandemic levels.
Okay, so almost back.
Yeah.
And they're spending a decent amount of time.
On average, yeah, about 13.1 days, spending about $41 per day, which, well,
We might come back to that figure later.
we might. But these recovery figures, while positive, immediately flag a major issue the sources highlight: hotel overcapacity.
Ah, okay. This
Yeah.
is where the infrastructure development hasn't quite matched the visitor numbers or maybe overshot.
Precisely. Nepal's current hotel infrastructure, based on the notes, has the capacity to host somewhere between 3.5 to 6 million tourists annually, depending on how long they stay.
6 million capacity.
Potentially, yes. Yet they're only seeing roughly 1.1, maybe 1.2 million arrivals.
So hotels are sitting mostly empty for large parts of the year.
Yes, occupancy rates are estimated at only about 1/3 of capacity. And compounding this, the sources note over 20 new five-star hotels are currently under construction, adding even more rooms to an already, oversupplied market.
More rooms than tourists and more being built. That inevitably leads to pressure, I imagine.
It creates intense competition among hoteliers, which the sources describe as leading to price wars.
Right, undercutting each other.
Exactly, which impacts the industry's profitability and, if unchecked, could risk lowering service standards as businesses try to cut costs just to fill rooms.
And you trace this problem back directly to that reliance on the mountains.
Fundamentally, yes. The current model is heavily seasonal peaks in spring and autumn for trekking and climbing. This leaves vast capacity unused for large parts of the year. So diversification isn't just a marketing idea.
It's an economic necessity.
The sources present it exactly like that, an economic imperative to fill that capacity year-round.
It's about survival and growth, really. Focusing on culture, food, and festivals, things available throughout the year, is crucial for smoothing out seasonality, increasing occupancy, attracting new types of travelers, and ensuring the industry's long-term sustainability.
It turns this challenge of oversupply into an opportunity if you get the product mix right.
Okay, let's shift then. Let's talk about the immense potential that the sources highlight, starting with Nepal's incredible cultural heritage. It's described as a treasury of cultures.
And not just one homogeneous culture, right? It's a mosaic from diverse ethnic groups, each with really distinct traditions.
Where do we start?
Well, the Kathmandu Valley is key. You have the Nuari people and their unique urban civilization. The sources really delve into their original art and architecture, heavily influenced by the Malala dynasty.
That's Kathmandu, Patan, Bhaktapur.
Exactly. Those ancient cities are like open-air museums, stunning temples, palace squares, residential buildings.
And what makes this a strong tourism product, beyond just sightseeing?
Well, the sources emphasize it's a living heritage. It's not static. Tourists can experience the unique architecture, yes, but also visit craft workshops.
Like metalworking or wood carving.
Right. And not just to buy things, but maybe even take master classes. Then there are unique traditions like the living goddess Kumari and daily rituals that you can respectfully witness. It offers real immersion.
Plus, it's largely year-round and centered in areas with existing infrastructure, hotels, transport. Makes it accessible even if you're not there for a strenuous trek.
Exactly. It's an ideal product for the shoulder seasons or even the monsoon. And crucially, it's potentially very sustainable, engaging through workshops, cooking classes, or participating in local festivals like Indra Jatra.
We'll probably talk more about festivals later.
Definitely. But this engagement creates direct income for local communities. It gives an economic incentive to preserve traditions that might otherwise vanish, and it transforms the tourist from just looking to actually participating.
Okay, moving south then, to the Terai lowlands, especially around Chitwan National Park, the Tharu people.
Yes, their culture is deeply intertwined with nature, very distinct. They're known for stick dances, this amazing mocha art, intricate paintings on their clay houses, their own language, social customs.
And how can that be integrated into tourism? Beyond the usual wildlife safaris, I mean.
The sources suggest things like ethno-tours and community homestays, really immersing tourists in daily life, maybe learning some farming techniques, traditional fishing, or attending cultural evenings.
And pairing Tharu guides on the safaris themselves.
Yes, guides with that deep local knowledge of the plants, animals, and folklore. It just enriches the whole Chitwan experience.
That's smart. It layers a cultural product onto an existing natural attraction.
Wow.
And presumably helps local communities directly.
It does. It helps distribute tourism income more broadly than just the park lodges, and it can actually reduce pressure on the main park areas by offering compelling alternative activities nearby. The sources reference successful community-based tourism, or CBT, models in Tharu villages.
CBT seems like a recurring theme.
It is, and they note how it often empowers women who frequently take the lead in running homestays and preserving traditions like mocha art.
Okay, let's head up into the hills. Annapurna foothills. The Gurung people.
Known for their hospitality, of course, but also unique dances like Gantu and Sarati, a rich oral history, and obviously the links to the Gurkha traditions. Their culture is this fascinating blend: Buddhism, Hinduism, even animism.
And this integrates well with trekking.
Perfectly. There are even specific trails, like the Annapurna Gurung Trail, designed around their villages. Places like Galgan or Sirubari are mentioned as pioneers in community tourism.
Ooh, you can actually stay in the villages.
Yes, stay in local homes or community lodges, visit monasteries, learn about daily life, crafts, food. The emphasis is on authenticity and interaction.
So it adds a cultural dimension to the trek. It's not just about the views.
Precisely. It attracts trekkers looking for more than just a physical challenge, and spending time, maybe an extra night or two in these villages, increases the average length of stay. Plus, this kind of community tourism is a powerful economic tool.
How so?
It helps preserve the unique Gurung language and culture by making it economically valuable. And importantly, it creates jobs for young people, maybe giving them a reason to stay in their villages rather than migrating to cities or abroad.
Makes sense. And then way up high, in the Everest highlands, the Sherpa people, everyone knows them for mountaineering.
But their culture, deeply rooted in Tibetan Buddhism, is incredibly spiritual and profound. It's shaped by living in the highest mountains on Earth. You feel that resilience, that deep connection to the Himalayas. Monasteries like Thiam Bosch are vital centers.
So how does that translate into tourism beyond just supporting expeditions?
You weave it into the treks, but with a cultural focus. Visiting active monasteries, maybe observing or learning about Buddhist rituals, having guides share local history, legends, mythology.
Respect seems key here.
Absolutely critical. The sources emphasize the need for genuine respect for local culture, traditions, and sacred places in all these interactions.
This feels especially relevant given all the issues we hear about on Everest. The waste, the crowds, even talk of moving base camp.
It is. Understanding the Sherpa worldview, Their deep reverence for the mountains as sacred abodes could foster more responsible behavior among tourists. It can shift the focus from just a physical goal, like bagging a peak, to appreciating the region's culture, spirituality, and environmental fragility.
It offers a more sustainable alternative to the intense commercialization that the sources note is impacting the Everest region.
Exactly. Things like sustainable ethnographical tours, cultural tours focusing on daily life, spirituality, the community. These provide alternative income streams that aren't solely dependent on high-altitude climbing. It helps preserve Sherpa identity and the environment at the same time.
Okay, one more major cultural site mentioned, Lumbini, birthplace of Buddha. Huge significance.
Massive. A UNESCO World Heritage Site, attracting over 1.2 million visitors in 2024, though, the sources note, many are Nepalese and Indian pilgrims. It even made the New York Times list of top places for 2025.
So it's getting global recognition. But the sources point out significant untapped potential, something about 500 million Buddhists globally versus only about 1 million visitors.
Yes, they identify some major hurdles, things like slow implementation of the original master plan for the site, issues with the effectiveness of the Lumbini Development Trust, reports of poor service quality, bureaucratic delays, and even some geopolitical complexities affecting development.
So what's the vision if they can overcome these challenges?
The idea is to develop it into a major international hub for Buddhism and peace. That involves building new international monasteries and temples like the planned Thousand Buddha Temple, renovating ancient sites like the Ramagrama Stupa nearby, expanding the Buddhist university to attract students globally.
So a much bigger vision.
Yes, the whole greater Lumbini concept, integrating surrounding historical areas. But this requires significant private investment and, crucially, effective public-private partnerships, PPPs.
And could fixing Lumbini be a kind of blueprint for development elsewhere in Nepal?
Potentially, yes. If they can successfully implement PPPs here and really raise service standards, it could serve as a model for tackling similar infrastructure and management challenges across Nepal's tourism sector.
And positioning it not just as a historical site, but as an active center for spirituality, education, meditation, peace that broadens the appeal.
Definitely. It attracts a wider audience interested in mindfulness, interfaith dialogue, personal growth. That kind of tourism is generally less seasonal than trekking and could potentially bring in higher spending visitors through longer stays for retreats or educational programs.
Okay, you mentioned community-based tourism or CBT a couple of times. That seems like a really important thread connecting many of these cultural experiences.
It's highlighted repeatedly in the sources as a vital approach, yeah. CBT offers travelers a chance for genuine immersion into rural life, staying in local homestays, maybe helping with chores, eating local food, participating in daily activities, and connecting directly with communities.
Places like Surabari, Gelgaon, the Tharo villages you mentioned.
Exactly. They're prime examples. It's built on the principle of local involvement, making sure that economic benefits actually stay within the community. This helps preserve both culture and the environment while directly improving local livelihoods.
And there are networks now helping to promote these.
Yes, things like the Community Homestay Network are mentioned, helping to market these often quite remote experiences to an international audience. It's about creating authentic, unique travel routes that showcase the distinctiveness of each community.
This really taps into what a lot of modern travelers seem to be looking for, those authentic experiences, something beyond a standardized hotel stay.
Absolutely. And it directly combats what economists call leakage, where tourism revenue flows out of the local economy to international companies or city centers. With CBT, the income goes more directly to the families providing the food, lodging, guiding services.
Creating a powerful economic incentive for them to preserve the very traditions and environment that attract visitors in the first place.
Right. And the sources also note how CBT, particularly homestays often run by women, can be really empowering, giving women more economic independence and community standing, like in places like Panati.
But scaling it up probably has challenges.
For sure. Things like access to funding for homestay improvements, training locals in hospitality skills, language, hygiene standards. Then there's establishing consistent quality control and finding effective marketing channels to reach the right kind of tourists.
Government support sounds crucial here.
Very. Things like a supportive legal framework, maybe financial aid or microloans for homestay upgrades, and definitely investing in basic rural infrastructure like roads and internet access, which makes these places easier to reach and run.
And collaboration seems key too.
Yes, partnerships between NGOs, the private sector travel companies, and the communities themselves, like the example mentioned between Royal Mountain Travel and the Community Homestay Network, are vital for organization, training, quality control, and market linkages. It needs a truly integrated effort to unlock its full potential across the country.
Okay, let's add another layer to diversification we touched on. Food. The sources describe Nepalese cuisine as a surprisingly, maybe even criminally underexploited asset.
It absolutely is. Well, dal bhat is the famous staple, and it's wonderful.
It's everywhere, yeah.
Yeah. The culinary landscape is incredibly diverse. We're talking momos, of course, but also sel roti, samosas, yumaris, dindo, gundruk. The list just goes on and on.
And huge regional variation too, right?
Massive. You get heartier dishes in the highlands using yak, maybe dried meat, barley, potatoes, things like thukpa, or the local millet beer, tongba. Then down in the Terai, you have much more Indian influence, spicier dishes. It's this fascinating blend of local ingredients with Tibetan and Indian techniques and flavors.
This sounds like a huge opportunity. You can attract a whole different crowd, foodies, bloggers.
Exactly. And it enriches every visitor's experience, whether they came for food or not. Plus, it's a direct way to potentially increase that average daily spend figure, which we noted was a bit low at $41. Good food experiences often mean people spend more.
And it stimulates local agriculture, helps preserve traditional recipes, creates jobs.
Right, from the farm to the restaurant table.
Nuwari cuisine, back in the Kathmandu Valley, sounds like a particular treasure trove based on the descriptions.
Oh, it's incredibly rich and complex. They use unique spices, lots of different preparation methods. The sources list key examples: samai bhaji, that ritual platter; yomari, those sweet steamed dumplings, often fish-shaped; chatamari, sometimes called the Nuwari pizza, a rice flour crepe; choila, spicy grilled meat salad; wo, fried lentil patties; lakamari, a ceremonial sweetbread; and the potent local rice spirit, isla.
And many of these dishes have deep ritual significance.
Yes, they're often tied to specific festivals, life cycle events, community feasts. It's food deeply embedded in culture.
I can totally see the potential here. Guided food tours walking through the old streets of Kathmandu or Bhaktapur, seeking out authentic local eateries, maybe even experiencing a traditional Nuwari bhojan, a feast.
Or taking cooking classes. The sources mention these are becoming really popular. It's a fantastic hands-on cultural takeaway for tourists. And places like the Nani Hotel in Bhaktapur are noted as examples of how this amazing cuisine can be integrated into a high-quality tourism experience.
Then there's Thakali cuisine, famous from the Mustang region, right? Along the Kali Gandaki Valley.
Yes, it has this great reputation across Nepal for being incredibly balanced, using high-quality ingredients, and just being delicious. The signature dish is the Thakali thali.
The set meal.
Exactly. Typically featuring dal, rice, or perhaps dido, buckwheat mash, various seasonal vegetable curries, spicy pickles or akars, maybe some curried meat or dried meat, often distinctively spiced with timer, that's a local Sichuan peppercorn relative. It's known for being very clean, wholesome, and satisfying.
So how do you promote that? Support the existing Thakali restaurants found all over Nepal.
That's one way, certainly recognizing and promoting their quality. But the sources also suggest creating specific gastronomic routes or tours within the Mustang region itself.
Experience it at the source.
Right, where you can link the food to the landscape, the culture, the famous hospitality of the Thakali people. It's already hugely popular domestically, and the sources see high potential for attracting Western travelers seeking those authentic, high-quality regional food experiences.
So specialized food tours covering different regions, hands-on culinary masterclasses, maybe food festivals.
Absolutely. Food festivals in Kathmandu, Pokhara, or even smaller regional centers could showcase the incredible diversity, promote local products, and tie into cultural performances. And those interactive experiences, cooking with a family in a homestay, maybe visiting a farm during harvest, that really aligns with the modern traveler's desire for authentic, immersive, taste-based experiences. Moving on, another major asset the sources highlight for diversifying tourism is Nepal's absolutely staggering number of vibrant festivals.
Yeah, festivals seem like such an integral part of daily life there, reflecting all that ethnic and religious diversity.
Yeah.
And they happen throughout the year, right? Potential for off-season draw.
Exactly. The key, the sources argue, is developing a really detailed, accessible, and internationally promoted calendar of these events so tourists can actually plan trips around them.
Okay, starting with the big ones. The main Hindu festivals, Dashain and Tihar.
Dashain, usually falling in September or October, is the longest and arguably most important. It's a 15-day celebration primarily focused on the victory of good over evil, and it's huge for family gatherings.
What are the key things a visitor might see?
Well, there are specific rituals like Garastapana, planting barley seeds, Fulpati, bringing sacred flowers, animal sacrifices, particularly goats and buffaloes, on Maha Astami and Navami. That's a very significant part. Then the peak is Bijayat Dashami, when elders give tika, a red mark on the forehead, and jamara, the barley sprouts, as blessings. It's a time for feasting, flying kites, huge bamboo swings are set up, lots of shopping.
Sounds intense. And then Tihar follows soon after.
Usually in October, November. Tihar is the festival of lights, often compared to Diwali in India, but with unique Nepalese elements. It's spread over 5 days.
5 days. What happens?
Each day has a focus. Day 1 honors crows, day 2 dogs, day 3 cows in the morning, and Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, in the evening. That's when you see houses decorated with oil lamps and intricate Rangoli patterns on the floor. Groups go singing traditional songs like this in Bailo. The final day is Haitika, celebrating the bond between brothers and sisters with really elaborate rituals and gifts.
These sound like incredibly colorful, deep cultural immersions for tourists, but maybe challenging logistically?
Definitely. During Dashain especially, transport can shut down, businesses close as everyone goes home. So the sources suggest specialized tourism packages are needed, maybe based in homestays or hotels that organize ways for visitors to respectfully observe or even participate in some family celebrations.
The benefit being immense cross-cultural understanding.
Exactly. Witnessing these traditions firsthand really breaks down stereotypes and offers a glimpse into the heart of Nepali family and community life. Plus, it's a huge boost for domestic tourism as well.
Okay, what about a really unique Kathmandu Valley festival? Indra Jatra.
Yes, this is primarily a Nuwari festival, usually in September, right around the end of the monsoon. It's an 8-day celebration dedicated to Indra, the king of heaven and god of rain, and also features Bhairav, a fierce manifestation of Shiva.
What are the main events? Sounds spectacular.
It really is. Key moments include the erection of the Yosinthanagu, a ceremonial wooden pole brought from the forest. Then there are the chariot processions, huge wooden chariots carrying the living goddess Kumari, and representations of Ganesh and Bhairav pulled through the packed streets of old Kathmandu. You also see incredible masked dances, like the Lake demon dancers and the Pulukisi elephant dancers, plus rituals involving the massive gilded mask of Shwet Parav, from which traditional rice beer or liquor is dispensed.
Wow, that sounds like an incredible urban spectacle. A must-see.
It's a direct link to ancient traditions playing out right in the heart of the old city. Huge potential as a unique cultural calling card for Nepal. What's needed, the sources say, is high-quality information for tourists, good guides, brochures, maybe even apps to help them understand the complexity and significance of all the different rituals happening.
Makes sense. Moving up into the mountains again, Losar is a key festival.
Yes, Losar is the Tibetan New Year. It's celebrated by Nepal's Himalayan Buddhist communities, Sherpas, Gurungs, Tamangs, Tibetans residing in Nepal. It falls in February or March, typically, but the exact dates vary based on the lunisolar calendar. There are actually different types of Losars celebrated by different groups.
And what are the traditions like?
Lots of cleaning and decorating houses beforehand, hoisting new prayer flags, special elaborate rituals and prayers in the monasteries, often featuring masked cham dances depicting religious stories, and of course, family feasts and gatherings.
So a chance to experience Buddhist traditions firsthand, maybe visit monasteries during a special time.
Exactly. Visiting places like Buddhanath or Swayambhunath stupas in Kathmandu or monasteries up in the Everest or Annapurna regions becomes particularly significant and atmospheric during Losar.
And conveniently, February-March is generally low season for trekking.
Perfect timing. It helps attract visitors during the winter months and really showcases Nepal's cultural diversity beyond Hinduism.
And these are just a few examples, right? The sources probably mention others.
Oh, definitely. Things like Tej, a colorful festival primarily for Hindu women. Chath Puja, honoring the sun god, very important in the Terai region. Biscuit Jatra, the chaotic but fascinating Nepali New Year celebration in Bhaktapur, with chariot pulling and a tug-of-war. Mani Rimdu, another significant Sherpa Buddhist festival in the Everest region, famous for its intricate masked dances performed by monks at monasteries like Tiangboche.
The sheer variety is the point, isn't it?
Absolutely. These festivals are scattered across different seasons and regions. That makes them a powerful, ready-made tool to combat seasonality and draw visitors to lesser-known parts of the country throughout the entire year.
Okay, so beyond the big three culture, food, festivals, the
Yes.
sources also look at other promising niche areas to help expand Nepal's tourism horizons. Wellness tourism is one that seems like a natural fit,
Given Nepal's stunning natural beauty, its peaceful environment in many areas, and its deep spiritual traditions, there's immense untapped potential here, you're right.
offering things like yoga and meditation retreats seems obvious, but also leveraging local traditions.
Yes, things like Ayurvedic clinics and spas using local herbs, incorporating elements of traditional Tibetan medicine, she practices, and utilizing the inherent spirituality of sacred sites like Lumbini or Pashupatinath for healing or reflection retreats.
Is the infrastructure developing for this?
It is slowly. Eco-resorts and dedicated wellness hotels focused on organic food, natural settings, quiet contemplation are emerging. The sources mention established places like Dorikas, but also newer ones like the Pavilions Himalayas and others focusing on this market.
You could imagine specific products, high-altitude yoga retreats, spiritual healing journeys, perhaps short stays in monasteries, healthy culinary programs. These could attract a different, maybe higher income segment.
Definitely. And importantly, many wellness activities aren't strictly tied to the peak trekking seasons. They offer that crucial year-round appeal. It does require investment in facilities and specialized training, but it stimulates related local industries like organic farming and traditional medicine practitioners.
Sea tourism, that's meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions, is also mentioned as showing steady growth.
Yeah, Nepal's strategic location, sandwiched between the huge markets of India and China, is a significant advantage here. New convention facilities are being built, air travel connectivity is improving, and the government seems to be actively promoting it. An example cited is the NICE 2025 event in Pokhara, which apparently attracted around 800 delegates.
What are the unique selling points for Nepal and MyC?
Well, the sources suggest offering exclusive venues. Imagine a conference center with stunning Himalayan views, or holding events in restored historic palaces. Plus, the ability to easily combine business trips with unique pre- or post-conference experiences. Short treks, cultural tours, wellness packages, adventure activities.
It attracts high-spending groups, often corporate, and frequently during the shoulder or off-seasons, which directly helps with that hotel occupancy problem.
Exactly.
Finally, sustainable and ecotourism. This feels less like a niche and more like a necessity these days, globally, and for preserving Nepal's own precious resources.
It's definitely a growing segment of traveler demand worldwide. And within Nepal, organizations like the Hotel Association of Nepal, HAN, are pushing members towards more eco-friendly practices and greater local community involvement.
Are there good examples?
Yes, the sources highlight places like the Pavilions Himalayas again, noted for its solar power, organic farm, rainwater harvesting, and strong support for local community projects. Also, Tiger Mountain Pokhara Lodge, long recognized for its commitment to biodiversity conservation, supporting local schools and farmers, and using traditional building techniques.
Of course, the challenges are real too. We mentioned the waste issues on Everest earlier.
Absolutely. The environmental impact of mass tourism, particularly in fragile mountain areas, is a serious concern highlighted in the material, including discussions around potentially moving Everest Base Camp.
So how do you promote sustainable tourism?
The suggestions include developing clear certification systems for green hotels and tour operators, creating specific ecotourism routes that minimize impact, and importantly, educating tourists themselves on responsible behavior, respecting culture, minimizing waste, conserving water.
It aligns with global trends like, say, glamping luxury camping with minimal footprint and attracts travelers who are actively seeking sustainable options.
Right. Positioning Nepal as a destination committed to preserving its natural and cultural heritage isn't just ethical, it's becoming a real competitive advantage globally. It attracts conscious travelers who often prioritize sustainability and might be willing to pay a premium for it.
So we've looked at the current situation, the overcapacity driven by seasonality and this incredible wealth of cultural, culinary, festival, and niche assets Nepal possesses beyond the mountains. But as you said, having these assets isn't enough. Strategic action is needed to really activate them.
Exactly. The sources lay out several critical steps. First and foremost is consciously building a new tourism brand for Nepal. Moving beyond being solely known as the country of Everest is just paramount.
There have been past campaigns, right, like Naturally Nepal, or the big Visit Nepal 2020 push.
Yes, and they had the right idea about attracting more tourists and highlighting diversity to some extent. But the sources note they ultimately faltered or were disrupted. Issues included maybe not enough focus on infrastructure readiness, weaknesses in targeted promotion, sometimes overambitious targets, and then, of course, Visit Nepal 2020 was completely derailed by the pandemic.
So what are the current goals now?
The immediate focus is recovery to pre-pandemic numbers, aiming for maybe 1.5 million arrivals by 2025. But crucially, there's now a much stronger emphasis from both the Nepal Tourism Board, NTB, and HN on achieving year-round tourism.
Okay, so how do they build this new, broader brand? What actions are needed?
It involves really targeted marketing aimed at specific segments, not just blasting generic messages. Reaching culture enthusiasts, foodies, wellness seekers, MICE organizers, families. Heavy investment in digital marketing is key: modern websites, active social media, working with relevant influencers, and creating compelling, high-quality visual content and storytelling that genuinely showcases the diversity we've been talking about.
And this seems critical, this new brand promise has to be backed up by the reality on the ground, right?
This is absolutely crucial. The sources emphasize that slick marketing alone won't fix fundamental issues. If the brand promises easy access to cultural immersion, but tourists find key sites hard to reach due to terrible roads, or if service quality in new areas is inconsistent, it completely undermines the message and leads to disappointment.
And it probably also requires shifting the mindset within Nepal's own tourism industry, which has maybe historically focused heavily on mountaineering.
That's a really important point raised. Training programs, perhaps incentives, are needed to encourage local businesses, hotels, tour operators, guides to actually develop, promote, and confidently deliver these new diversified products beyond the traditional trek or climb.
Infrastructure development is highlighted as perhaps the main physical obstacle.
Yes, transport comes up again and again, particularly improving road access to potential new cultural and natural sites that are off the main trekking circuits or outside the Kathmandu Valley. That's seen as essential.
And there are other issues, like the new international airports in Pokhara and Bhairawa not being fully utilized yet.
Correct. Plus, ongoing concerns about domestic air safety, which contribute to Nepal remaining on the EU's air safety blacklist, hindering connections. And maybe a less glamorous but significant point mentioned is the lack of adequate, clean public toilets along major tourist routes and near sites, a basic comfort factor that affects many tourist segments.
Is progress being made?
Some, yes. The World Bank funding a $150 million project to improve bridge infrastructure is mentioned as a positive step. But continued, strategic investment is needed in road networks, connecting potential new areas, ensuring the new airports become fully operational with more international flights, demonstrably improving air safety standards to get off that EU list, and developing essential infrastructure like sanitation in emerging tourism zones.
This is all fundamental to making these diverse experiences truly accessible, comfortable, and safe for a wider range of tourists, families, seniors, business travelers, not just the young, rugged backpacker or mountaineer.
Exactly. Then there's policy and the investment climate. Nepal does officially encourage foreign direct investment, FDI, in tourism, allows profit repatriation, and offers some incentives for large projects or establishing operations in special economic zones, SEZs.
But the sources point out some inconsistencies or barriers.
Yes. For instance, some specific tourism-related services are reportedly still closed to FDI. Tourism businesses often face a higher corporate income tax rate, around 25%, compared to other industries, often 20%. They don't typically receive subsidies for things like electricity, which can be a major cost. And perhaps most significantly, the Main Tourism Act dates all the way back to 1978.
1978. Wow, that's seriously outdated for today's industry.
Very. So the necessary steps outlined include modernizing that core legislation to reflect current industry needs and trends, perhaps officially designating tourism as a priority sector, which might unlock specific benefits, simplifying investment approval processes, considering targeted tax or subsidy relief specifically for businesses investing in diversification and off-season operations, and potentially removing barriers for international hotel and service brands, like existing royalty ceilings, to attract needed capital and expertise.
Basically, creating a more predictable, transparent, and supportive environment to attract the significant investment needed for all this new infrastructure and product development.
Precisely. And finally, digital transformation. This is presented as absolutely non-negotiable for competing effectively in today's global tourism market.
We're talking websites, mobile apps, social media campaigns, online booking platforms.
All of that, yes. But also potentially more advanced things like using virtual reality, VR, or augmented reality AR to offer immersive previews of sites or experiences. There are existing efforts like the NTB's mobile app, but the sources suggest a more comprehensive approach is needed.
What would that look like?
Recommendations include developing a unified national digital tourism platform, a real focus on high-quality digital storytelling and visual content optimized for online sharing, strategically leveraging immersive technologies, AR/VR for promotion, aggressively promoting through international online travel agencies, or OTAs, and collaborating with digital nomads and travel bloggers, and using data analytics much more effectively to understand tourist behavior and personalize offers.
This is just how you have to reach potential visitors today, especially younger demographics, and stay competitive with other destinations that are already doing this well.
It's simply essential.
So let's wrap up this deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground. What's the central takeaway message from all these sources we've examined?
I think it's pretty clear. Nepal's wealth of potential extends far, far beyond its justifiably famous mountains, its vibrant cultural tapestry, its incredibly diverse and delicious cuisines, and its packed calendar of colorful festivals are immense, powerful assets.
And these are the keys, the strategic levers, really to address those critical issues of hotel overcapacity and damaging seasonality. They offer the pathway to unlocking truly year-round, more sustainable, and more widely beneficial tourism growth.
And the sources really stress this, realizing this potential isn't automatic. It requires a conscious, coordinated, strategic push. It needs serious investment in the right infrastructure, modernizing outdated policies, actively building and promoting a new, broader brand image, and fully embracing digital tools. It requires all stakeholders, government, private sector, local communities working together towards this shared vision.
Nepal clearly has the raw materials, the incredible resources. The challenge now, it seems, is effectively executing the plan to showcase that full, multifaceted picture to the world.
Exactly. By successfully promoting more than just mountains, Nepal can build a much more resilient, equitable, and ultimately prosperous tourism future for itself.
Which leaves us with this thought for you, our listener, to perhaps ponder. Given everything we've explored today, the sheer depth of culture, the richness of the food, the incredible energy of the festivals, alongside the practical need for strategic action. If you could experience just one specific aspect of this more than mountains Nepal, what would it be?
Or perhaps thinking about how Nepal's profound spiritual depth and living heritage intersects so powerfully with its breathtaking natural beauty. How might a deliberate focus on cultural and spiritual immersion fundamentally redefine what we even think of as adventure travel in the future?
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into Nepal's exciting possibilities for a diversified and sustainable tourism future.